wow, things happened. Things were happening.
Yes, I'm wearing the same outfit. Don't judge me.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another fun reading vlog. I have been so excited to film reading vlogs lately because I have just been doing like the funnest ways of picking my reads. And today I've got another really good one for you guys. This week, not only am I going to have 3 of my best friends in the whole world help me pick my reads, but they will be picking blind. They will not know which books they're being presented with. They will only receive a Taylor Swift lyric that I think describes the book that I have chosen. I'm so freaking excited for this. Obviously, with last week's announcement of Taylor Swift's new album, if you are a Swiftie or even if you just love her music and don't classify yourself as one, I have hand selected 2 books for each of my 3 best friends. And with the help of ChatGPT, I have selected these lyrics for them, which I think I did a really good job. You guys will have to let me know if you are a Swiftie or if you have read any of the books that I have picked. Now, just to give you a little bit of background on how I picked the books that I presented to each of my friends, my rule of thumb was whether or not I thought this book on the shelf would be appealing to this friend, whether they consider themselves a reader or not. Without further ado, I'm going to jump in and talk to you guys about the picks and the lyrics I picked for my first friend, Kelsey. Now, for my friend Kelsey, she is a lover of the contemporary romance genre, I would say, more than anything. I know she's read ACOTAR and I feel like she's read some other romanticises, but the ones that I see her reading most are contemporary romance. She recently read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez and she absolutely loved it. And so I figured my first pick for her would be The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. It is a book that is on my August TBR and is one of the only books by her that I haven't read yet. I actually don't know if Kelsey has read this yet, but this is the first book that I picked. Continuing on with the summary, so you guys know what this book is about. I'm just going to be very brief in my summaries and then I'll dive into it. This book is basically about our main character who is about to have a medically necessary procedure which will make it impossible for her to have children. Obviously, that is so hard. As a mother, I can't even imagine having to face that decision. She ends up helping her best friend plan her wedding, and she is put in the path of the groom's best man, whose name is Joshua. He's very attractive, he's funny, he's smart. He's just basically the perfect guy, but the catch to this story is that he really wants a big family. And so because of that, she ends up sticking him in the friend zone, obviously the name of the book. So because of that and because of her insecurities about whether or not really anyone would want to be with her now that she's not going to be able to have kids, I picked the lyric that says, "Who could ever love me, darling? Who could stay?" from her song called The Archer. Now, the other option I wanted to give her is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This is another contemporary romance that I've really been wanting to get into, except on the other side of things, this is a very toxic love of just 2 main characters who are pushing each other away for whatever reason, and they just keep doing things that are kind of terrible to get back at each other, even though they do feel like they are meant for each other. I've been wanting to read this so bad. I just keep putting it off because I know how well loved it is. And so that has me just a bit intimidated. I normally just kind of get intimidated when I know that there's a lot of lovers of a certain book. But I love Jessa Hastings' writing. I read Conditions of Will earlier this year and it's in my top 10 most loved books of this year. So I've been really excited to get into more of her books. For Magnolia Parks, because of their on-again, off-again kind of toxic love story, I ended up picking lyrics from the song The Last Time with Gary Lightbody. Specifically, you find yourself at my door just like all those times before. You wear your best apology, but I was there to watch you leave. And all the times I let you in just for you to go again, disappear when you come back, everything is better. Absolutely love that song. I feel like I have not listened to it in so long. But I put together this little graphic, which I will put on the screen. She has answered, but I have not checked her message. So let's go ahead and see what book she picked for me to start this vlog off. I'm excited to see which one she picked because I feel like I'm pretty even on which one I would want to read. I'm not really leaning either way. I'm excited to just read either one of them. So she chose Who Could Leave Me But Who Could Stay. So that does mean that we are reading The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. I'm actually really excited for this because I feel like it's gonna be really sweet and something that I'm gonna love. I mean, I always love Abby Jimenez, but we'll see where this ends up in my ranking. It looks like it's also available on Hoopla, which I'm really excited about because I've been listening to more audiobooks so I can walk and get things done, especially with packing since we're gonna be moving in a month. So I feel like that'll be super helpful.
next day, yes, I'm wearing the same outfit. Don't judge me. But I am overdue for an update on the friend zone because I am already over the halfway mark. There's something about the way that Abby Jimenez writes that just makes it so that I read her books so fast. I am enjoying this book. It's definitely more layered than the summary stated. Kristen is in a lot of pain awaiting her surgery. She's going to get a hysterectomy, and until the halfway point in this book, she didn't even tell her best friend, so she was suffering in silence. And another thing that you don't know about from the summary is the fact that she is in a long distance relationship with a Marine, which had me worried because I thought there was going to be infidelity, but there definitely isn't. I like the way that Abby Jimenez approached that and just had a female main character who is supremely loyal. But right off the bat, though, we can just tell our two main characters are so compatible. And so I feel like our female main character is stretching her relationship with her long distance Marine as long as she was, just to keep her feelings for Josh at bay because Josh is such a family man. It's stated that one of the bigger reasons he broke up with his last girlfriend was because she didn't want kids, but I feel like that was just kind of a last straw for him and their relationship wasn't working. However, you can obviously see with that being so huge, it is breaking our female main character's heart because she really likes him. She can see that he really likes her, but knowing that the no kids thing was a deal breaker for him is obviously just like a huge roadblock. She has not communicated to him about her medical issues. That is one thing that I'm like, just tell him already. Like, we're over halfway through this book, just tell him. It's getting to the point where they're just getting so close. They're becoming really like best friends. And I'm like, just tell him already. Like I said, I'm enjoying the story. I really love our male main character. He's just so good with her because our female main character is very much a blunt person. She's very much the type that will just tease you or say exactly what she thinks. And he just goes with the flow. Like, he never is bothered by her sassy attitudes. He is always anticipating her needs, which I love in a male main character. So I'm just getting to the point in the book where I'm like, we need to resolve this. I don't know how much longer I can wait. So it has me very intrigued to see how this book finishes. I am enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the plot. I'm enjoying our characters. So I feel like I'm just going to spend the next little bit reading this book. I've been alternating between listening it and reading it. I always read physically faster than I can listen to it. But yeah, I'm invested and I want to see where it goes. So I will update you guys when I finish this book with my final thoughts.
Can't say what his recovery is going to look like in this junction. Test to be ready. He's going to have a long run, but I'm optimistic.
Okay guys, I'm back. I finished this book last night. Actually, I pretty much read all of it in a day. Ever since my last update, wow, things happened. Things were happening. There was an event that occurs about halfway through this book that totally threw me for a loop. I did not see it coming, but the aftermath of it has me sat for the next book that is in this series of interconnected standalones because I just have to know what happens with one of our characters. When this event occurred, it hooked me and just had me so intrigued to see where the story was going to go, what happened next. And honestly, after that tragedy, I liked this book a lot more. Like, I would say the first half of the book, I think you could kind of tell the way I was talking about it. I was enjoying it, but it was more of like a casual enjoyment. I didn't feel like I had much like skin in the game. Like, yes, I liked the characters. There were parts of it were funny, but I just wasn't feeling super connected, but once that happened, I did. It's crazy that it takes like a tragedy for me to really be emotionally invested, but I feel like I just need depth to my stories, and that's what Abby Jimenez is good at. I felt like I wasn't getting that as much in the beginning of the story, but I definitely got it midway to the end. I saw more of her, like the Abby Jimenez that I know and love, in the latter half of the story, and I can definitely see how her writing has progressed from this book all the way up into her latest releases, which are some of my favorite contemporary romances ever. I loved our MMC. I just loved how obsessed that he was with our female main character, how caring he was. He grew up with 6 sisters, and I feel like he just learned so much from that experience on how to just really care for a woman. I really appreciated that. There was obviously that big problem hanging between them of her not being able to have kids and give him the big family that he desired. And I liked the high stakes of that, but I will just say that we kind of went back and forth a few too many times for me. Like, I feel like some of those should have happened off screen. It was getting kind of old. Like, I got it She pushed him away so many times before he didn't know about her medical issues, and then she pushed him away again so many times after he did that it was getting a bit repetitive for me. Like, I get why she was doing it, it just felt really repetitive for the reader. It really was wrestling with what I was going to rate this book because of that, because I'm kind of leaning towards a 3.75 because I still really enjoyed this book. I would definitely recommend it, but there was just that extra little bit that was missing for me because of the repetitive nature of our characters' problems. But it's tough because there were some parts of this book that I seriously loved so much. That was a really good read, a really good start to this video, and so I'm really excited to move into the next book. The next friend who will be picking my reads is my friend Bree. Bree is a lover of fantasy, specifically fantasy romance. She also really likes novels of a gothic nature, things that are a little bit more eerie. I ended up picking 2 different fantasy romances off of my shelves that have very different vibes. First, I picked Terror at the Gates by Scarlett Sinclair. This is a book that is very highly anticipated for me because one of my favorite YouTubers to follow, Rachel, has been raving about this book. This is like a 5-star book for her. I'm also just obsessed with the cover. I love the insides, and it came with these book vellums that I'm just so excited to read it and be able to put them in the right places in the book. They're just like, come on. Anyways, I've been really excited to read this. I feel like this will be a good intro to fall. I'm going to go into this book quite blind, but what I do know is it is a retelling of the Lilith story in more of an urban fantasy setting. Because I'm going into this quite blind, I asked ChatGPT for some help picking this song lyric. According to ChatGPT, there is a lot of like female rage. There's a lot of people who judge our main character and make her life really difficult. I'm just gonna pull it up because I feel like that is describing it horribly. So for this book, it recommended Mad Woman from Folklore. It says, for the righteous fury and female rebellion, Lilith's defiance against patriarchal and religious oppression mirrors the narrator of Mad Woman, who channels anger into power. This song's simmering restrained rage matches Lilith's calculated way of reclaiming her autonomy and refusing to be controlled. That honestly makes me want to read this book even more. So I picked the chorus of the song. It says, and there's nothing like a mad woman. What a shame she went mad. No one likes a mad woman. You made her like that. And you'll poke that bear till her claws come out and you find something to wrap your noose around. The next book I picked for her is actually a little bit sneaky. It's because I know she's reading this book right now. I have it on my shelves. It's something I want to read, and I figured if she picks it, then we can kind of buddy read it without her even knowing. And how fun would that be? And that is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. I have heard that this is a fantasy rom-com, that there's lots of wit and banter, something that I love within any genre of book. This is based off of the Hermione fanfic, Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love. It's actually one that I started and never finished. I don't think I really connected with it at the time, but I want to give it another chance. Now that my reading tastes have changed, obviously this has been adapted to steer away from the Harry Potter world, but this is one of the most beautiful covers that I have on my shelf. I love it. Like, I think it's incredible the fact that this isn't even a special edition and it has a cover this beautiful. Obviously, this is an enemies to lovers. I feel like there's gonna be some playful vibes in this. And so I ended up picking a lyric from the song Don't Blame Me. Specifically, I picked echoes of your name inside my mind, hiding my obsession. I once was poison ivy, but now I'm your daisy. I feel like it's kind of just whimsical. Obviously, the chorus I feel like would go really well. I know that our male main character is an assassin and a little bit unhinged. I have a sneaky feeling that he's going to be the one that falls first. And then we have our female main character who is a very gifted healer. They end up having to work together. This is kind of like an unlikely allies to lovers, but I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'll pop the graphic up on the screen that I sent her, and now we can go into the text and see what she picked. She said, girl, the mad woman won all the way, the rage I've been feeling. I hope it's a good one so I can copy read. Okay, so perfect. She picked Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair, and that will be the next book that we read in this vlog.
Okay, it's the next morning and it is time to talk about Terror at the Gates. I am about halfway through, just under halfway through, and I have a lot of thoughts to share. And unfortunately, most of them are not super positive. I think one of my biggest problems is the overuse of religious material in this book is making it seem kind of try hard for me. And I'll go into that a little bit further, but first I want to say I am not somebody who shies away from religious materials or themes in books. In fact, I do find myself really enjoying them because I am Christian and I feel like I have that basis of the scripture and terms and things like that. I feel like it's something I can already connect to, even if it's something totally different than necessarily what I believe. Obviously, this is fantasy, so I don't need to take it that seriously, in my opinion. But even growing up, like I was a lover of the Fallen series by Lauren Kate. That's heavily influenced by biblical material and scenes. I've always loved reading about angels and demons in my books. I loved the Mortal Instruments series growing up, and that is obviously also has some heavy biblical notes throughout it. And I don't mind a commentary on religion. I don't mind a commentary on church. And that's kind of why I say that. Like, I've read the Four Horsemen series by Laura Thalassa. I also enjoyed that. But with this book, it is so overt and in your face that it just to me is too much. It's coming across for me as just cringeworthy in some cases. For example, she goes and gets pizza at a pizza place called the Sons of Adam. For me, I just feel like it's so much to the extent that it's distracting from the story for me a little bit. I want to know more about this mysterious dagger that she has come across, that anytime anybody but her and our male main character touch it, they mysteriously and painfully die. I also understand that people have really different experiences with religion. I'm very tolerant of that. I'm totally fine with that. I think everybody can have their own experience and we can all hear each other out and respect each other. I am the last person to judge. The church that is in this book is so horrible. The leaders are doing the most despicable things known to man. I would like to see more nuances in it. I just want to hear so much more about that. And I feel like the author is literally smacking you in the face with just like biblical terms and things like that, that it almost just takes away from the story. I'm like, I get it. I get it. This is based off of like a religious story. I get it. Trust me. So that is what's kind of tough for me right now. I do really like our male main character. I like the idea that he has always been there in her life. Like, she's grown up around him. She's always been untouchable to him. But I like that because I feel like that's uncommon. In a lot of fantasy books, it's you're meeting this person for the first time. It's not somebody our female main character has known. And so it's really cool to see a male main character who she has known throughout her life and who is very protective of her. I'm enjoying that side of things, and then I'm also enjoying the mystery regarding this dagger, and that's what's kept me going because I'm going to be honest, I was very close to DNFing this book at like a third of the way through. Just because I feel like her idea of world building is so saturated in reused religious terms that I just felt like there was nothing new. I felt like she was trying to do things in a new way, and yet I was kind of just like, okay, I get it. Like, there's religious undertones, but I want to see more of you. I want to see more of your story. I want to see more of the writing. But obviously, I'm in the minority on this one. I'm going to keep trucking along in this book and hopefully finish it. I'm hoping that now that we're in the meat of the story, now that we know more of what's going on and I understand the world that she is building, I'm hoping that we can just move on from like shoving the religious terms down your throat and just understand the story a lot more. I do like the aspect of our female main character choosing her own path. In this world, I would say almost like highborn females are married off. They're very subservient to their husbands, and she is fighting against that and choosing a life almost of like poverty over the very comfortable life that she was living, physically comfortable life, I would say. Just like her family had money, she grew up with it, was obviously like higher in society. Now she's like barely making ends meet even with a roommate. So it is interesting. So yeah, I guess I just don't know where I am at with it. I think I'm halfway through, so part of me is like
Do I just truck through to the ending? I would say a bigger portion of me is just like, Nellie, you know what, just finish it. And then if I don't like it, I won't continue in the series and might potentially unhaul this book to see if there's anybody else that would enjoy this more than me. I will say it's just such a shame because this is like one of the most beautiful books that I have, as far as it not being a special edition. And like, look at what this book looks like. Is that not so stunning? Like, just the attention to detail. I realize I have the UK hardcover. The insides just give you like a scene of it. And then something I love, which I've never seen before, is the inside of this dust jacket is the map. Like, that is so cool, and I really think that more books should do that. I think that's just so freaking cool. But yeah, so you know what? There have been books that I've just not really liked up until even the halfway point, and then I finish it and I'm like, wow, I get it. I'm more committed. I would continue in the series. So we will see where I end up being from there. But I will give you guys an update when I finish this book.
Next day, I finished Her at the Gates last night, which I ended up kind of DNFing it in a way because I read all the way up until there was like 70 pages left, and I was just continuing to force myself to read and continuing to force myself to read. And finally something happened and I was like, I don't care to finish it. So I ended up literally skimming to see a scene that occurs at the end of the book, and I'm like, yeah, this book is just not for me. I think it's just exactly what I was saying earlier. I think my biggest problem with this book is there's no room for nuance in this book. This book was written with a lot of rage towards religion, and I am somebody who likes seeing all sides of different things as far as religion, especially when it's explored in fiction novels. But this one, again, I just felt like had no room for nuance. Every single person that was named as a character who was associated with the church was either an abuser or like a hater of women or just an overall terrible person. The only person was her dad, but they didn't even say that like he didn't condone XYZ. And that bothered me. I feel like if you're gonna go really deep into religion, then you gotta include some nuances. But that is just me. If you love this book, there's absolutely no judgment for me. There will be books that you hate and that don't make you feel good that I might love and read and just totally relate to. This is just my experience. I did decide that I'm going to unhaul this book just because I just really did not like this book. And so I'm definitely going to either donate it or just resell it back to my bookstore. Okay, so moving to the last book that I'm going to be reading in this vlog, let's first talk about the friend that is choosing my read. Her name is Taylin. She is one of my best friends. She is an artist. She's very aesthetic. She has an eye for beauty. She is not a huge reader, but I feel like that's only because of her stage in life. She has 2 very young kids, and when I had kids, her kids' age, I also was not reading very much because life was too crazy and you never have like a moment to yourself. And so I ended up picking these 2 books for her. First, I picked Broken Country, which is partially for the cover. She's a really, really amazing, talented landscape painter, and the cover of this is a painting. I don't know if you can really tell in this, but even just the sky reminds me of the way that she paints. And so I picked it mostly for that, but I've heard amazing things about this book. I've had it for a while and I just haven't gotten to it yet. I thought it would be a good transitional fall book. It's supposed to be a historical fiction thriller, but also with romance in here. We have a mom who recently lost her 9-year-old little boy, and she is married to the man who helped pick up the pieces of her after basically the love of her life. I don't know exactly what happened, but they ended up getting separated. And one day this dog comes and attacks their sheep. Her husband because obviously he's a farmer and that's his job. And a little boy who is the age that her son was when he died, and his dad come running onto the property after this dog. Turns out that that father of this son was the love of her life. And so this is told in different timelines from when they first met to why they separated, and then the complex feelings that are rising now, especially as Beth and her husband might be growing apart. Losing a kid takes a toll on you, and so it sounds really, really good. I ended up picking the song Illicit Affairs for this book, and I wrote, "It's giving clandestine meetings and longing stares." And then I put some emojis that I felt like reminded me of the cover. And then the next one I picked was Normal People. For some reason, I felt like this was a book she would enjoy. I feel like this sounds like a show she would watch. I mean, I know that this show came out. I don't know if she's watched it, but I feel like this is something she would enjoy just from what I know about her. Normal People by Sally Rooney. A lot of people know what it's about, but I'm just going to read the back because it's a really short summary. It says, Connell and Marianne grew up in the same small town, but the similarities end there. At school, Connell is popular and well-liked while Marianne is a loner. But when the two strike up a conversation, awkward but electrifying, something life-changing begins. Normal People is the story of mutual fascination, friendship, and love. It takes us from that first conversation to the years beyond in the company of two people who try to stay apart but find they can't. I've been really excited to read this, and it's such a short read that it's honestly criminal that I haven't read it yet. I found it at Goodwill in really good condition, and I've just been wanting to get to it. I obviously made a graphic to send her, which I will pop up on the screen here, and let's go ahead and unveil what she ended up picking. She actually sent it to me in invisible ink, so I feel like I can now look at it. She said, okay, I'm going clandestine meetings and longing stares. Okay, so the third and last book in this reading vlog we'll be reading is Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. I also heard that this is a good audiobook, so I think I'm going to tandem read and listen to these, which honestly I think I've done with every single book in this reading vlog. That is not normal for me. Normally it's one or the other. But I feel like I've been so busy lately with just school restarting that this is really going to help me to get through this quickly, and I will update you guys when I'm a little bit into it with my first impressions. Back with my update on Broken Country. I just finished this book a few minutes ago. It took me a few days, honestly. I started out listening to a lot of this and it made a really good audiobook. And let me tell you, when I wasn't listening to the audiobook, I was thinking about this story. I was also trying to physically read another book, and I just found myself so in this book, so in this world, that it was difficult for me to switch back and forth, whereas normally it's so easy for me to do that. I just kept thinking about these characters as if I knew them. I was sick to my stomach with some of the things that they were going through, and I had to know what was happening next. In this book, we're mostly following Beth, our main character, and she is married to a man that has just been amazing to her always. He's loved her since she was 13, and but she was passionately in love with somebody else at the same time, and their love affair ended, and she ended up coming back to Frank, and he basically picked up the pieces. So you're loving her husband for that, for the good man that he is, and for their simple life on the farm. Now, a lot of what's discussed in this book is about grief of losing a child. Frank and Beth lost a child, and it's been so hard for them in their marriage since that happened. And then on top of that, Beth's first love, Gabriel, ends up coming into town, and he has a little boy that is just around the age that their son was when he died. She just finds herself not only drawn back to Gabriel, but also drawn to his son. And it's just a really heartbreaking story about multiple people who are facing really hard things and decisions that they make that are wrong, decisions that they make that are human, and a tragedy that ends up involving all of them. And it's just so beautifully crafted. Honestly, this book was so amazing. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I could not stop thinking about these characters. I was just sick to my stomach with the will they, won't they, what is going to happen next. It jumps time a lot, and so you really do need to pay attention so that you are able to get the full spectrum of the story and what's happening. I just loved this book. I think I'm going to think about it for a long time. I'm going to give it 5 stars because not often do I read books that, again, I'm just so in them. I felt like I was a character here. I felt like I was Beth, and just the decisions that she was making, even though they weren't necessarily right. They were very human. I'm not excusing them, but I could understand them. And just the fact that I just loved both. I just was so satisfied with this ending too, even though it wasn't necessarily sad, but it wasn't necessarily happy. It was just so satisfying, and I just loved it. I don't know what else to say. I just loved it. I think this is my favorite book that I read in this entire video, hands down. And I'm really, really glad that I read it. Seriously. I feel like I could go stare at a wall and just keep thinking about it for a while. Just to give a little recap of the books that we read, we ended up reading The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. I did thoroughly enjoy this. I would say this was a 3.75 to a 4. It was a good book. It's not her best work, but it was a good time. It was a good time. Then we read Terror at the Gates. I think you guys know how I felt about this book. I did not love this. I will be unhauling this speedily. It just wasn't for me, and if it's for you, I'm so happy for you. And then lastly, ending on a banger, Broken Country, a 5-star that I'm going to be thinking about for a long time. And there you have it. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me in this week. Honestly, it was a little over a week, but of reading these books that my friends picked out for me. If you enjoyed this kind of reading vlog, let me know. I always like trying to make fun ideas for how to pick what I'm reading next and just mostly make it more interesting for you guys to watch. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so, so much. If you made it to the end of this video, you're a real one. And if there's any recommendation you get from me, let it be Broken Country. Read this book and tell me what you think. Please tell me what you think. I absolutely loved it. As always, I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye.